Here in Key West, we were out before it was in. In this open and inclusive paradise, you can be yourself, make new friends, and savor our live and let live vibe. With LGBTQ plus friendly accommodations, our legendary nightlife, and year-round activities and events, it's always a good time to come as you are. Key West, close to perfect, far from normal.
Bubba Wallace here from 2311 Racing. You know what's slower than a pace car? Waiting at the car wash. That's when I fire up Chumba Casino. It turns those slow minutes into fast fun. With new games every week, you'll never get bored. Next time you're stuck in the slow lane, speed up with Chumba. Play now at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
He's an old head.
Youngins are really starting to get on my damn nerves.
He's a purveyor of nonsense. He's a Georgia high school coaching job influencer. His favorite Bible verse is, Jesus wept. He's the man of constant sorrow, Chris Lamb.
Yeah.
Welcome to Son Coaches Podcast, and tonight I've got a good old friend of mine that's been coaching for quite some time at his current stop. He's an old head these days. He's the head coach at Screven County High School. Coach Ron Duncan, thanks for being on with us.
All right, glad to be here, Chris.
Well, Coach, tell everybody where you grew up and where you went to school and where you got started.
Well, I grew up in a place called the Horse Creek Valley over in South Carolina. It's a collection of about 20 mill villages, actually, and it fed into Midland Valley High School. And it's right near North Augusta and Augusta, but across the line over in South Carolina. Grew up there. Definitely had a blue collar mentality growing up. A lot of days you fought walking out the door. It's just the way it was. And I wouldn't trade anything for being raised there. Yeah,
Rachel grew up. She went to Midland Valley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I know all about the Sassafras Festival.
Yeah, she's a Valley rat. Yeah, 421. So, it's changed a lot, and it's a booming area now. A lot of those textile plants, when they started going under, I think my dad shut down every one of them. And he finally got out at SRS, I guess, when I was about a senior in high school, a freshman in college. I told him, I said, you're going to shut down the federal government, and you shut down every textile plant in the valley. But that was a bad time. But they kind of dwindled down a little bit, and now it's built back up. A lot of those textile plants have turned a lot of their land loose and sold lands and subdivisions going in, and it's kind of like, a bedroom community for Augusta area now.
So you went to Midland Valley High School?
Yep, I did. Graduated in 1989, way back.
And what all did you play in high school?
I played football and baseball, and we had some good teams. We were in 4A, which was the highest classification at the time. We had a pretty tough little region. It was very, very tough, and our baseball region was ungodly. It was probably at the time one of the best in the country. We had Irmo and Lexington and Greenwood and North Augusta. A lot of baseball powers in there, and that was fun. Played against a lot of draft picks and college baseball pitchers for sure, and players. It was a challenge. And then in non-region, we'd always pick up Evans back in their heyday and play them. So that was always a good game between us and them. And there's a lot of good memories there. Midland Valley's, they've had some good teams and some down years, nationally, but I still try to keep up with them.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Newberry College. I had a couple offers out of high school, and honestly, Newberry was the best. And we had a little offer at Presbyterian, and I'd made a bunch of visits to schools like that. Bobby was coaching up at Furman. I visited there a couple times, but I wasn't quite talented enough probably to play on that level, and wound up having a good experience at Newberry and played there for 4 years. And played defensive back when we went there. We went to the 4-3, so became a linebacker, and learned a lot and had a lot of great memories and a lot of lifelong friends for sure.
Well, did you know when you were in college that you were going to teach and coach, or did you have
I probably knew in the 5th or 6th grade that that's what I wanted to do, and everything I did was geared toward that. I still got them somewhere, but I remember, as a sophomore in high school, I started at safety, and I had notebooks on every opponent we played, and it was something that I always studied the game and knew that's what I wanted to do, and probably could have played baseball in college, but football, I knew I wanted to coach football, and so that was part of the reason why I wanted to do it in college, and certainly glad I did it, and I think it gave me some opportunities later on, and but yeah, it was definitely hard and difficult going through it, but it's something that when you get done, you're certainly glad you did it.
Absolutely. Well, was GA in your cards, or was it just I'm going straight into the high school universe?
No, I mean, I had some opportunities, and I had some, as a young coach, I had some opportunities to get into college, but it was never really anything that interests me. I saw the coaches at Newberry. I mean, I played for 3 different head coaches at Newberry, and all the assistant coaches coming and going, and I didn't want that kind of lifestyle, and I was ready to kind of settle down, and I remembered the high school coaches that had such a big influence on me, and certainly I think that was a big factor in what I wanted to do, and why I chose to stay in high school. And like I said, I had a couple of opportunities. I was defense coordinator at Sean Thurman, and then the defense coordinator at Camden, had some opportunities to kind of move on, but I never really seriously pursued them. And I don't have any regret. Certainly glad how everything turned out.
So what was your very first teaching and coaching gig coming out of college?
Well, I graduated in December. I had to do student teaching in the fall because, football, it's not like when back then when you were teaching, you had to get if you want to be a teacher, you had to get the number of hours in to get in your degree area. And then you minored in education, and then you had to student teach. So I graduated. It actually took me 4.5 years. I had student taught that fall semester, and I had a job offer teaching at Midland Valley, teaching driver's ed. And honestly, there was a guy, and you talking about old school, was a guy named Clayton Criswell. He was the head coach at Midland Valley at the time. He went to high school with my parents, and played for Uncle Ray at LBC High School. And I remember this, he gave, every coach on staff had a hat with a number on it. So he had a hat, had number 1 on it. And Rick Knight, who became the head coach, was the defense coordinator. He had number 2. Marty Harper had number 3. Well, I don't know if he even had it, but he had a 9 hat, and I had the 9 hat. And I honestly, I wasn't interested in teaching in starting teaching in Midland Valley where I grew up. Something never interested me really, and I wanted to get away. And I was doing driver's ed class at Erskine, and my cousin Bobby Lamb called. He said, "You need to go see Jeff Burke at Crescent High School." And I had never heard of Crescent High School, but I was up that way because part of the class was at Erskine in Due West. And then the last part of it was in Anderson. So I went down to the Crescent and met Coach Burke. And I'm telling you, we had 0 athletes at that place. And it's almost as rural as Screven County. And I learned more football that year with Jeff Burke. He had been at NC State with Dick Sheridan. He was a defense coordinator at Stevens County when he came over and took the head job at Crescent. And he had got rid of everybody just about that was on staff before, and he had him and 3 assistants, and I was one of them. And I coached defensive backs and receivers, and so I learned a lot on how to do things. And he took that team like 2 or 3 years later. They went like 12-2 and made it to the semis, and it was the most confounded best coaching job he had ever done. I left after 1 year and went to Strong Thurman. When Brian Smith took the job there, but I still kept in touch with Coach Burke. He meant a lot to me, But during that year, we went 2-8, and that was a miracle. That's probably one of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen, to go 2-8 that year. And with a bunch of freshmen and sophomores that had no business playing on a Friday night. And we played. I remember the last game of the regular season. We were playing Pendleton High School, and they were loaded, and it was 48-0 at halftime. And I looked at Coach Burns and said, "What do we need to do?" He said, "Crank the bus." And but we went home that night. We left Pendleton. We drove home, and there was a welcoming party back at Crescent for us. And I knew they were going. Coach Burke was going to turn it around. And I think I taught 7th grade world geography and 8th grade South Carolina history in my first year. Probably one of the last times I've been in the classroom. But and the job came up late at Strong Thurman, and Brian took it, and he was calling me the whole time, and I went down there with him, and heck, we had some success right off the bat there, and and then Coach Neal, he had been the defensive line coach at Furman for like 14 years, and he had taken the Camden job, and using the Bobby Lamb connection again, I went over there to Camden with Coach Neal, and really that's where I think I learned most everything, other than my parents, and of course watching Uncle Ray, in the summers when I'd go up to Commerce with the Lambs. Coach Neal's probably had more influence on my coaching career than anybody. And, he's just a great man. We were fortunate. We won, I think, 50 games in the 4 years I was there, won a state championship, played for another, and just had a wonderful experience. And then my father got sick with cancer, and it was bad. It was pancreatic cancer. And I took my first head job at Bamberg Earhart. It was a small school in South Carolina, but it had a good tradition, but they had been really, really down for about a decade before I went there. And I was blessed to have a really good staff there, some holdovers, and we were able to turn it around, really quick, and had some great success there. And we had probably had the number one defensive end in the country in 2005, and then 2 years later had the number one player in the country. So we had some good players, and had a lot of success, and we had some near misses and lost 2 heartbreakers, last second losses in the semifinals, which was essentially the state championship game. And I think it was God teaching me a lesson, honestly, I'd taken over that program. I think there was a stretch where they'd been like 1-9 4 years in a row right before we kind of went in there, and we won 8 games first year, and then 9 the second, and then 12 the third. And my father had passed away, before the May before my first game there. He came to one spring practice, and then he passed away a couple weeks later. And then we had a daughter. I already had a son in Camden. We had a daughter who was born with a congenital heart defect, and I think she had 5 open heart surgeries the first year of her life. And we spent untold amount of weeks in ICU. And I think honestly, when you're going through things like that, you rely heavily on God and those things. And then when you get through it all, you kind of start thinking you did it yourself. And it was some humbling moments there, and there at the end. And I remember going there the last game. We lost to Chesterfield in the semifinals at home, and we had the game won. We lost it like 8 seconds left in the game, and I remember walking across the parking lot, and there was Steve Tannehill, who's a South Carolina legend, over there, and Bamberg's a big South Carolina town. And I was walking across the parking lot, and I heard some people, we just got out coached. They were tailgating still after the game, and I was just like, that. It didn't bother me really, but I was like, well, you just shows you can't satisfy everybody all the time. You take over a losing program, and you lose in the semis, and I just kind of shook my head, and I kind of felt like it was time to move on after that. And I was down coaching in the under.
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Another checkered flag for the books. Time to celebrate with Chumba. Jump in at ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21 plus. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
Farmer game in Florida, and the first one I believe it was, and I interviewed at Seneca and near Clemson, and I took that job, and it was probably. I probably took the wrong job then at the wrong time, and it was not a very good situation. And you know, when you take jobs, sometimes you think you can turn them around, and you better have a lot of things going in your direction. And the principal that hired me left like 3 months after I was hired and took another job, and it just was never good there. And we had an impossible, brutal schedule that the previous coach had made, and I told somebody, I was like, Darren, I woke up on the couch at 3:00 every morning, you know, because I couldn't sleep. And, you know, I was like, you know, it shouldn't be this way. And that was, I think, in 2010. And I was offered the job. I interviewed at Screven County and was offered the job and turned it down and went with Sid to Elbert County. It's probably two of the most enjoyable years of my coaching career was with Sid at Elberton. And, you know, it was just I told somebody, I said, it's the only time in my life where alarm clocks had to wake me up, you know, and for a long time and probably since. I worked just as hard, but it was just working on football. I didn't have to worry about nothing else. And, you know, so, and then 2 years later, we got beat by Buford in the third round, and Screven called me back that Monday morning, and pretty much offered me the job then. And been here since 2012, so it's going on 13 years.
As the head coach of the Screven County Gamecocks.
Yeah, and that was tough too, because you know we're a big Clemson family. My wife's Clemson grad. My daughter's up there now, and my wife's like, I'm having a hard time saying go Gamecocks, but when they're paying the bills, you be surprised at what you can say. But you know, it's pretty neat. People complain about the rooster crowing, and you know, being the only school in Georgia with the Gamecock mascot, I guess pretty neat. We eat fried chicken before the game, and hopefully the other team don't eat chicken during it.
Yeah, I remember when I was at Burke in 2001, we played, and they had just gotten the big scoreboard, and the rumor was it was South Carolina's old one, and it was huge. It like took up the whole. Cooper was the running back there at the time, and they were really good, and it made that had that rooster crow. And my wife was like, because she's a big Georgia girl, she's like, if I hear that rooster crow one more time, she's about to lose it.
Oh, well, like, you know, I didn't appreciate it until I found out how much it aggravated other people. Now, I'm like, no, we need to make that chicken crow a little bit more, you know?
Yeah. So when you got to Screven County, what classification was Screven County? I just want people to get an idea of how much the program's changed since you've been there.
We were 2A. When I got there, and we were probably, I wouldn't say we were toward the top end of it, but in 2006, I looked at we had a staff development, we were looking at the whatever stuff and the data digs or whatever. And in 2006, and that was about 6 years before I got there, they had 1,100 students in Screven County High School. And when I got there, I think we had around 850. And now we've been consistently below 600 for a while now. It has changed a lot, but I mean, we're half of the school that won the 3A state championship in 2002. You know, it's just like, I think 75% of our kids are below the poverty line. You know, we're 50-50 black, white, right down the middle. But most of all of them are poor. You know, I mean, and it's, you know, they did a thing a few years ago, schools like us or whatever, and how high our CCRPI scores were, and how we were like number one in the state, schools like us, and from academic perspective. And you know, I looked up the football wins and it was like, there were some bad football teams on that list, and, just because of the situation you've been in, with the poverty. And, but I tell you, we're blessed here too, because we do have a core booster club that works extremely hard, and they raise a lot of money for the program every year. And, I want our kids to have the best that we can give them. We try to give them the best equipment we can give them. We try to do all that stuff. And, we certainly got a great booster club, and we have a lot of support. We don't have everything going our way, but they do a lot for us. We have some admin that care, and they try to give us the basic necessities, and they do want us to be successful. And so it's been a good place, and we came here, and we stay here long enough. We'd moved around a bunch, and it's just like, I wanted somewhere my kids can at least have a home to be, a home. You got a lot of coaches that move around a ton, and I have as well. And, but we've been here for, I guess, 13 years now. So our kids pretty much grew up here. I've got a son that just graduated from Georgia Southern, and my daughter is a sophomore at Clemson, but this is their home, good, bad, indifferent. This is their home. And, we built a house here when COVID hit, and, this is where we want to be. And, we had a great run, first 8-9 years I was here, but I took great pride in staying after we graduated a lot of talent and trying to rebuild it again. I think my first year here, we had the biggest turnaround in the state of Georgia. And I think we did it. We were either close to it or had it like 2 or 3 years ago again, and we did it again. And I guess it ain't great to do that, when you've been somewhere, but we've kept the core staff together since I've been here. And I think more than anything, what our kids need is stability and knowing somebody's going to be there every day. And, when I'm in the school, my office door is open. We just got new facilities, and it's not as conducive to them coming in there every day or coming by my office. But, we see our kids every day, and they know we're going to be there. And a lot of our kids don't have that stability in their life. There was a time it was about winning, and when I think I came here with the right mindset where, it ain't about me. When I was 31 or 30 and took my first head job, it probably was about me. And I think the longer you go in it, you realize, what your passion is and what your purpose is are two different things. And, certainly try to come to that balance in my life. And I've got a great wife, Misty. I think we've been married for, I don't know if she can hear me. We've been married, I think, 27 years, going on 28. And she wasn't necessarily raised in an athletic minded family. And she keeps me grounded. She does. She's a handful, which I need. And she's been probably the best thing ever happened to me. And but this is our home, come hell or high water, and we've certainly had a bunch of high water here lately.
Yeah, that hurricane that just rolled through there. Send me some pictures of y'all. Said it looked like a war zone. You weren't lying. I was complaining about it being hot in scrimmage games, and you're dealing with real problems.
No, we had the National Guard in. We had 50 roads closed. I mean, for a while, Rocky Ford, which is in our county, you had to leave the county to get here from Rocky Ford to the school. And, I was able to touch base with a lot of our players during it last week, but we didn't have any activities after Monday. We saw them during the school day Monday, and then we were told we couldn't have any after school activities on Monday. And then we've been shut down since. It's kind of surreal too, because, when you go through COVID, you're thinking like, I'll never go through this again, and then all of a sudden this hits, and it's like, we've literally practiced outside twice in 3 weeks, and we have a game this Friday. And I remember being head coach at Bamberg in the South Carolina High School League, which is the equivalent to the GHSA, passed the rule where you could only have 29 practices before your first game. And I remember thinking like, God, how are we going to get it in? How are we going to get it done? And now we got a game to play this Friday, and we've done punt protection in the gym like twice. Fairly live, not as live as you can get in a gym. And we didn't punt it, and we ain't covered it. And we, a lot of things like field goal extra point, we kind of start doing the first week of pads, and then, we do it the next week, and then we're dead during the scrimmage, but we get to roll them out there. We ain't even put it in because we ain't been on the practice field. I literally have not been out there. The 2 mornings that we got, they let us practice 2 mornings during pre-planning, and we had to be off the field at 9. So, in Screven County, we got kids coming from 45 minutes away anyway. So we get them there at 6:30. We get on the field around, a little before 7, and then 9 o'clock we got to be off because we got pre-planning. So those are the only 2 days we got in because heat and lightning got us every other day. So it's literally been like, what are we going to do? I mean, I'm sick about it. I've been a nervous wreck sitting here doing nothing. We ain't had any film to watch. We didn't have anything to break down. We did, we already graded our practice film from the 2 days we had, and that's it. So we've got a lot of work to do this week for sure. We met this morning. We didn't have film, so we met and we did get a little peek of them over there at the scrimmage. Went and kind of broke it down by hand, old school wise, sitting in the bleachers. But that's about it. So we got a lot to get in. And I told our coaches this morning, we have a staff devotion every morning at 8. And when our chaplain left, I said, look, in our minds, we're going to treat these first 2 non-region games like scrimmages. And then we got a bye week, and then we'll get ready for region play. But it's certainly going to be a challenge, but adversity, builds character and builds men. So hopefully we'll be grown men here pretty soon. But it's certainly been a challenge.
Did y'all get to do spring?
We did do spring. We got about 7-8 days in of spring. We didn't do a spring game, so I try to cut it off a little bit early. So we did do some spring, and then of course you do football stuff in the summer, and back in the day, back when we were coming up, young coaches, we lifted and ran in the summer and did agilities and conditioning, but we didn't do a whole lot of football stuff. We threw some. But we did 2 days of patty camp in June. We did 2 days of patty camp in July. So we do have some of that, and hopefully we'll get on the practice field at some time tomorrow. I'm a little concerned about the wet bowl. We got a trainer who's a stickler for the wet bowl and the lightning detection. So hopefully we'll get out at some point tomorrow and try to get some stuff done. But and they won't have forgotten everything in a week or a week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever it's been since we've been on the practice field.
Well, have the kids been back to school yet?
No, we haven't been back to school, and I was concerned if we was gonna get back Monday. I think honestly, we had 18 inches. I think somebody said on their rain gauge. I know officially in town we had over 16. It was 15, and the rain hadn't stopped. So I think we probably had well over 16 inches in town and 18 inches out in the county. And, we got a lot of people suffering because we had some homes, a lot of people lost homes here. They didn't live in a 50-year or 100-year flood plain, and they got flooded, so they didn't have insurance and flood insurance. So, certainly thinking about those people, and they definitely got a lot more hardships than what I'm worried about right now. But, no, it's I don't know what to say. We went through this in COVID, and we did, and even the year after the COVID year, we were shut down. Our school shut down like the first week into school because we had like 250 COVID cases in school. I think over half our school had COVID, and we probably had 40 on the football team. So we shut down for 3 weeks that year and played 10 straight weeks. We had to reacclimate, and that Friday night was the first time we put on pads in a month. So we've been through this before, something similar, but this is definitely challenging. And, I'm anxious to get back on the field Monday for sure, tomorrow.
So you said y'all got new facilities. I remember when I came and interviewed with you, 15 years ago, still the old place. So you got new digs, huh?
Yeah, we did. They did a good.
Looking for excitement? Chumba Casino is here. Play anytime, play anywhere. Play on the train, play at the store, play at home, play when you're bored. Play today for your chance to win and get daily bonuses when you log in. So what are you waiting for? Don't delay. Chumba Casino is free to play.
Experience social gameplay like never before. Go to Chumba Casino right now to play hundreds of games, including online slots, bingo, Slingo, and more. Live the Chumba life at ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
job. I mean, last year we moved in last year on August, the first day of school. We were after basketball season. We had to move everything out of the entire athletic facility area. Everything. I mean, we had more square-toed kicking shoes. I could have sold them for me. I could have been a million. And we had a left-footed size 17 kicking shoe. And but we moved everything out. I thought that, I kept thinking like the maintenance part was going to show up and break down the weight room. No, they showed up all right. They handed us wrenches and stuff, and we broke it down, and the kids moved. I mean, for 3 days we had an assembly line moving stuff out, and but it was worth it. We were stuck over. We put 7 racks in the visitors locker room, and we lifted for a whole entire all season. We had 3 groups in the summer would go in, a group at a time and lift. We had one group running in the stadium. We had one group working on the track, and then we'd all go back out together and do some football stuff. But that was a challenge. But we moved back in. I still don't. I don't know where like a tape dispenser. I still ain't found my stuff. But I'm sure there's a bunch of closets over at the field house at the stadium's got a bunch of boxes in it. It's got a bunch of stuff in it that we need. But we got all new weight room equipment. Everything's brand new in there. A whole new building built for it, and it's really, really nice. And very blessed to have it. And but that's been a challenge too. It took about 6 months to get the wireless router in my office to work. They didn't put outlets on one side of the office and where I'm at, so we had to. It's been a mess, but it's been worth it.
Well, I know anytime you get anything new and nice, and the kids appreciate it. We moved into a brand new school. Our athletics still the same. That's like phase 2, I think, with what they're going to do at our place. But kids appreciate it, being in a new school, and God knows we needed one. But
yeah, well, they did a total facelift on our entire school while we were in it, and we had to walk outside to change classes, and it was a deal we had to do. Of course, we had to meet the weightlifters over at the school and then walk them to the field house, which is a pretty decent little walk, but we managed to do it. And they complained about it a couple times, but the kids back, they were pretty resilient, and they knew it was going to be worth it when we got into our new facility, and they've enjoyed it. And it's fun to watch when you get all of them in there after school or in the summer. We don't have the luxury of all of them in there at the same time during the school day, but it's a good little situation to have.
Some for them take pride in.
Yeah. And we put some field turf down the middle, and we use it every day. And we've got a good little setup there.
That's awesome. So you've got the new facility. You hadn't been able to practice too much. You've been hit by an act of God with a natural disaster, and you got a game Friday. So, I mean, everything's good.
Yeah. Just show up and play games. We were supposed to host a scrimmage with South Effingham, and we were thinking that we weren't going to be able to get the field painted and getting all this, and South Effingham's got turf, so we moved the scrimmage down there. And I told our coach, if we're in school Friday, we're going. And I went and sat down with Superintendent Wednesday. I just saw him at his office, and I pulled in there, and he said, Ron, it ain't going to happen. I said, I get it. I understand. And it's Misty and I, we got arranged, and we rode out and looked. And I mean, we got dirt roads that are completely washed down to the creek beds, and I mean, they're unpassable still. I mean, they're still. We rode down one today thinking they may have fixed it, but 2 of them are still slap undrivable. So they've got some collection spots to gather kids from certain areas, and hopefully we'll get all of them back Monday. And we might be rounding up 1 or 2, but hopefully we'll have everybody back Monday.
Yeah, it's insane when the sun's out, but everything's flooded.
That was the crazy thing. I sent you the video of Misty and her friend rescuing a dog out of the flood water, and it was sunny. Now we had bands come through after that. We probably had another couple of inches after that, but that was in the middle of it. Misty and I went out riding when it was, that Tuesday. We called a lull in the rain. We went out riding. I was like, this is bad. bad. But we've seen the cavalry coming in. My AD sent me a video of about 18 dump trucks and road graders, and I mean coming into to Screven County from all over. And we went out riding this evening in the Ranger. We do it on Sundays evenings. We'll go out ride, and it's amazing what they've done already. So it's heading that way. We've had a bunch of hogs on some trail cams though. It's pushed them out of the swamps, that's for sure. And I have a whole crew of old codgers I eat breakfast with in the morning, drink coffee, and they were all, of course, whoever they all got rain gauges, and I just make up a number, but whoever says last always has the most rain. It took them about 2 years to realize I didn't really have a rain gauge. I was just going to say the most if I was last, but they were showing me pictures on their trail cams, the hogs, and everything's been pushed out. There's some big ones around here for sure.
Well, that's one of the things that most people that don't live in rural or hadn't coached in rural towns don't understand how people come together, help each other out, raise money for the kids. They care about athletics. Friday night's important, or basketball game, baseball game, football. It doesn't matter what season it is, but this time of year, obviously it's football season. It's a big deal. And
no, it is. I mean, we got a group. I mean, I'm telling you, if we played in Alaska, they'd be there before we were. And they travel all over, and we've had to go to Brooks County twice in the first round. That's never fun when you're the 4 seed having to go to Quitman, Georgia in the first round. And I was like, I wanted to tell them, dude, you might want to sit this one out, but they're there thick or thin. And I certainly appreciate them. And that's what this town is. It's the most rural place I've ever been in my coaching career. That's for sure. And, but you get to know the kids at an early age. I mean, we had coaches, doing elementary PE, and, when they get up to high school and they're coaching them and they're picking at them and cutting up with them, that's the fun part about being in a town like this. We don't have a private school here. We don't lose kids to other schools. They're not getting recruited to other schools. We ain't recruiting nobody else from other schools. It's just, when you got what you got, it's something to watch them grow up, and mature. That's where the joy comes from. And I don't know how some of these coaches sleep at night, worried about other people poaching theirs or trying to get other people's players. I mean, it's something we haven't had to deal with here. And, been very blessed. I've never made excuses about, we ran into some private schools late in the playoffs at times I've been here, and I never try to let our kids, make excuses about it. I shake the coach's hand after the game, wish them well. And, but I wouldn't trade our situation for theirs. I wouldn't. We've been blessed to be here for sure.
So now you got there and y'all were in AA, and everything's reclassified and shuffled back out, and now you're in 1A, which is small A, same classification we're in now, and it changes the game. I mean, it's just different how much it's changed, and how rural South Georgia, Middle Georgia schools, the towns have gotten smaller, and the student population has gotten smaller.
Yeah, it has, and it's going to continue to change. I mean, we're where we need to be. I've told people forever, this is a 1A town. I mean, you drive through here, this is a 1A town. I mean, I'm not saying that in a derogatory way. I mean, it is what it is. But now we're playing schools like us. I mean, we're playing Jenkins County. They're 20 minutes away. Portal, ECI, Metter, Claxton, Bryan County. I mean, they're areas like us, and all the head coaches get along great. Heck, I mean, Chris Kearse is one of my best friends, and we go to the clinics together. We ride down to quail hunt together. I mean, they're people that have the same situation you're in, and there's definitely issues with the GHSA, and I tried to explain that last time. I was talking to one of the guys on the reclass committee. It's like, you're gonna put us in a region with Savannah Christian, Savannah Country Day, and at the time we didn't know if Calvary wouldn't be there with us or whoever. And I'm like, dude, you're talking about a death sentence on an athletic department. And he's like, well, you can still make the playoffs. Well, who wants to make the playoffs at 2-8 and you're beat to crap? I said, there's got to be a better way, and I'm not, listen, Baker Woodward down there at Spankers is a good friend of mine too. And a lot of those guys are, talk to the old guy at Calvary, he's been both sides of the barrel. He's been public school and private. He knows there's a difference. And he told me that. And it just is. And there's got to be a better compromise for things. And maybe this will satisfy a lot of people. I don't know what they've done, but, it's apples and oranges, when we're playing Pace Academy in the third round or whatever it was. And, it's just different. I mean, heck, I didn't even have a lot in common with their coaches. I mean, it's like the others in the show Lost when they met each other, it's just like, I mean,
I get it.
Yeah. We got 13,000 people in our county, and, it's just different. You play these schools from metro areas and those, even in the lower classifications, it's just a different situation. And like I said, I'm not making excuses about any of it. We're going to play our best, do our best, no matter who we're playing. It's just, there's a disparity there. And I think, people know that. They've tried to address it. I just don't know if we found the right way to address it yet. It's just a different, I don't know if it can ever come together and be right when you've got the metro city systems or metro schools and they're playing in classification with small rural county schools. It's a difficult way to make it equitable, if you will.
Well, one thing we can all agree on is that we are playing football way too early in the calendar year.
Yeah, I kind of expected. I was telling you this before we started taping. I kind of expected this year to be the rollback year because you move it. Every day every year you move up a day. It seemed like the 23rd or 24th was the first game a few years ago, and now we're sitting here August 16th. And like I said earlier, I remember having 29 practices before your first game, and darn, I mean, even if we hadn't missed a day, we wouldn't even be close to that. And I just, I there's a lot of worries I got going on in my head. I mean, from a physical standpoint, from conditioning, you can't acclimate, you can't go outside if the wet bulb's above 92. Well, heck, it's been above we have a decent hot day. It's going to be above 92 on the wet bulb until 5:30, 6 o'clock. And, I mean, we ain't gonna get an indoor facility. Our indoor facilities are gym, and
exactly.
Heck, last year we didn't have it because it was piled to the roof with stuff until right before basketball season started. So we were in hallways doing walkthroughs, and like I said, everybody's dealing with it. It's just the fact of it, starting school so early. You can't practice early in the morning. You can't practice in the evening. When you've got school, and most of our kids, we're either picking up in the summer or they're depending on that big yellow bus coming by and grabbing them and getting them here. So those are just issues you got to face, I guess. And, we'll go out and give our best effort this week, and we play Vidalia after that. And then, like I said, we'll have a bye week. We'll try to regroup and get ready for region play. But it is what it is. Everybody deals with it. And, you just make the best of it.
Yeah, playing. I was talking to DT today, and he's fully retired now, so he'll say what he wants to, which I do anyway, which is probably why I'm in the position I'm in. But
Tyler Reddick here from 2311 Racing. Victory Lane? Yeah, it's even better with Chumba by my side. Race to ChumbaCasino.com. Let's Chumba.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See T&Cs. 21+. Sponsored by Chumba Casino.
The having 2 scrimmages and 3 regular season games that hit right at Labor Day or before Labor Day, that's a problem. I mean, it doesn't take a whole lot to fix that. I mean, we don't need 2 bye weeks. We don't need to be playing football games in August. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's just common sense.
Yeah,
it's only going to affect 16 teams if you're talking about moving the games, the playoff games, because you're only talking about 4 teams from each classification. At the end, you're only talking about 16 teams that are going to be affected. Everybody is affected right now.
That's right.
Playing in the heat and everything else. And it's a math problem. And
it is. It is. I mean, it's an official problem too with the shortage in officials.
Yes.
And and I understand it, but like I said, there's some problems. And I've been to Thompson to go in some of these meetings. I've been to Macon. I went to Macon last year for the meeting. You get in there and everybody's got a bunch of good ideas, but nobody can settle on one. And then
Right.
and then you got somebody that's going to derail the whole conversation with some other idea. And
Right.
so it just, I don't know. It needs to be. There needs to be some exploring done on several things. And when I came to Georgia, I coached South Carolina for 17 years. I came to Georgia. Uncle Ray tried to get me to come a long time ago. I interviewed with Coach Bonds at Hart County. I interviewed with Coach Brooks at Washington Wilkes way back and made the rounds. And I wound up going to Camden over in South Carolina. And but there's a lot of great things South Carolina did. And there's a lot of great things Georgia does, and Georgia football is the best in the country, in my opinion. And I wouldn't trade it for nothing. But I don't know if South Carolina's a smaller state. I don't know, but there was some issues get worked out over there. If they can work them out, we can work them out too. And it's just getting the right people together and getting some ideas that everybody can work with. But there's always going to be a disparity in the between the privates and publics. I mean, that's just not going to go away. I always thought, to offset the really good private schools, you probably need about 1,100 students in your school. And you kind of start place them in those classifications. But I don't know. Me and Coach Honkus, we had a group get together and meet and present some things. And then, I don't know. It's troublesome. But at the same time, like I said earlier, don't make excuses about it. When you got to play them, you got to play them.
That's right.
And, if we played a team in the third round or semis or whatever, and they beat you and they're better than you, and you shake their hand and wish them well. But, I don't know. It's don't certainly feel bad for the publics that are stuck in a region full of them, and other people don't seem to be as concerned when it ain't them, but I think that's a concern people need to take into consideration. We were certainly facing it if we hadn't been able to, move down to Division II. We were sitting there looking like we were going to be in Division I, Class A, and 3 schools with more kids in their student body were going to be in the Division II school below us that we're in now. And because I think we're like the 4th largest populated school in our region. And now, so and then some of the small 1A's got an argument too. When you're looking at schools with 600-700 students playing in small 1A, that's an issue too. I think it needs to be addressed. But I don't make them big decisions or big bucks, so I just keep doing what I'm doing, I reckon.
So 30 years of coaching, more or less. What are some of the biggest things, good or bad, you've seen has changed over the years?
Well, I tell you, Chris, when I was in Camden, like our off day was Saturday, but I had to trade film and I had to dub it. Well, I had to dub VHS tapes, and we played people that didn't cut the freaking camera off. So you're sitting, and we had like 15 coaches that needed tapes. So I would load our game on it, have a stack of VCRs, dub it, and then put the 3 trade games behind it and dub it. And there's times I was up there, from 8 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. And then everybody came in Saturday evening, got a copy of the VHS tape, went home and graded their position. And then we met at 2 on Sunday. But I was defense coordinator. We went in at 8 because we had to break the film down, with the VHS tape and a Cowboy remote and writing it down by hand. And I remember I was at Camden and we got the DVD stack. We started trading DVDs, and I said, it'll never get any better. It'll never get better than this. I can dub the films in this amount of in 30 seconds. I can have everybody a DVD with all the games on them. Well, heck, then you turn around and you get huddle, and like our coaches come in, we meet at 8 on Sunday, and the defensive staff and the office coaches got the film broke down. They got their position graded. They got the opponent's film broke down. We come in and meet. So, we have a staff devotion, lasts about 30 minutes, and then we're usually out of there by lunch, and it used to be we stay. And in my first head job, I did it the same way we did it at Camden. I mean, we met until 10 at night. We went in at 2. We met. We talked about the previous game. I talked about things that we needed to get better at, correct, anything we needed to do. And then I talked about what I'd seen on film from the other team. And then we divided up and we met. And then Monday nights we practice and we'd go in and meet again till 10, 11 o'clock at night on Monday night. And then after about the first year, I was like, you ain't got to be this way. And because we were running spread back in 2003 in my first head job, we never saw what we were seeing on film, and I was like, we're beating ourselves up, So like the next year, I was like, we're gonna meet from 2 to 8, and we're going home. And if we ain't done, we'll finish it, but we're going home at 8, And it's gotten quicker than that now with huddle. We go in, we usually have practice film loaded before we leave, and we're not sitting around, we watch it at home. I want our coaches spending time with their families. And that, when I got here, I had a couple older guys, but I had a lot of young coaches and that had families and kids, and I wanted them home with their families. And so, I mean, we come in, and I'm the last one to leave, but we practice for about 2 hours, and we're off the field, and we're gathering things up, and we're getting the kids out the door, and we're going home, so I'm at home at 6:30, 7 o'clock every night, and our coaches are home before that. So I think that's changed a lot. I mean, you can grind away, and you can be grinding just to be grinding, and just, and listen, when I was young and I was a whippersnapper and defense coordinator, I told my wife, I mean, I was a coach when you married me, and this is what I'm doing, and I loved every minute of it. I wouldn't trade none of it, but things have changed, and of course, been through things with, I think we've had 8 or 9 open heart surgeries with my 2 kids, and it kind of puts things in perspective too. But certainly that has been the biggest change I've seen. Every generation talks about the kids they're coaching, and there's changes in that. When we were young coaches, Chris, I mean, the kids were raised in the church, and their parents were raised in the church. And now we've got a generation of kids that aren't raised in the church. Their parents weren't raised in the church. And that's different, and we do, devotions, and we have a chaplain that's there, and, at least planting seeds in their brain, that make, grow, fruit later, and that's kind of what I told our chaplain when we brought, he came from Elberton, and he took a job here at the Christian church in town, and he coaches our kickers, and our kicker, and usually only have one here. So, but he's done a great job with that part of it. But the kids, we live in some of the kids are entitled, and the kids now are taught to question authority, and sometimes that's not a bad thing, so you've got to find a balance there. The old school way, I think, people remember Mark Daniel here and grabbing face mask, and, those things kind of going by the wayside, and to some degree, rightfully so, but, I've always I guess I was a transformational coach before I even knew that was a term, and we don't cuss kids here. That's never going to happen here. We've gone to patty camps, and our kids have heard it, and I'm like, hey, ain't you glad you don't get coached that way? They're kind of shocked when they see it, but I'm an old school guy, but we're not going to cross the line there. But it's changed a bunch, it really has. But at the end of the day, it still goes back to blocking and tackling, and the Jimmies and the Joes you got on the field. And good talent's going to win 90% of the time. I firmly believe that. And it's just about doing the best you can with each group that you have. And it's taken me a while to realize that. But a few years ago we had won pretty big here for a while, and then we were having a down year. And a coach that was at South Effingham, he called me up one Sunday And he was like, Coach, how you deal with it? And I said, look, man, you know, he was struggling. He'd been the offense coordinator at Lee County. All he had done is won. And he was out in South Alabama. They were struggling. I said, Coach, look yourself in the mirror. And if you're doing the best you can do and you're doing right by your kids, and that's all you can do. And if they fire you, you'll find another job. Same as me, you know, same as everybody that's in this profession. And that's how he's like, how do you handle it? So that's how, you know, you take, you know, put it in God's hands and you do the best of your ability to, you know, the best you can with what you got. And you keep rolling and you show up, you keep working, you keep grinding, you keep chopping wood. And, you know, certainly we've had a couple down years. And when you're in a small town, you're going to run into it if you stay there long enough. And it's just, you know, being able to battle back from those is what you take pride in. And certainly we had a down year last year, but we were super young, and certainly hope this year we can turn it around. But that to me, that's what it's about.
Well, you definitely built a great program there, or rekindled a great program there in Screven County. Your career has been fun to watch, fantastic. I've always cherished our friendship. I've enjoyed our talks that we have 2 or 3 times a year. And I can't wait to see what this year has in store for the Screven County Gamecocks.
Well, I can't wait either, because I'll be the biggest surprise as you. You know, I really felt like this team has. I really feel like it's got a chance to be a really good football team before it's all said and done. And I just hope we've got some growth in us, and we've got to see it develop. And I think we've got some positions that are going to be that we've got a high ceiling at, and we ain't even close to it yet. And if we can get our kids to handle this adversity from this situation we've been in this preseason and get through these first couple of games, I think we have a chance to kind of steadily improve as the year goes on. And I you know, last year we won 4 games and we started 16 freshmen and sophomores, and our kids played hard every minute of every game after the first one. And we had some kids we had to sit after the first one, and some of them we got rid of eventually, or they got rid of themselves, and then some of them bought in how it was going to be. And, you know, so I think we got another run in us here. I do. I think our best days are definitely ahead of us. And I'm certainly anxious to get going this year, you know, with some stability and some routine and getting back to that structure that we need here. Our kids, we live 4 days in the summer, you know, during the week, because I want to see them. You know, we got to keep your thumb on them, you know, and so some of this stuff ain't good, you know, when you don't see them. But hopefully we'll come in tomorrow and get them in the weight room, and we'll start trying to get them back going again.
Well, I know you will, Coach. I sure do appreciate you being on with us, and you know, if there's anything in the world I can ever do for you, just holler at me.
All right, Chris. Same to you, buddy.
All right, thanks, Doctor.
All right, man. See you.
How to have fun anytime, anywhere. Step 1. Go to ChumbaCasino.com.
ChumbaCasino.com. Got it.
Step 2. Collect your welcome bonus.
Come to Papa welcome bonus.
Step 3. Play hundreds of casino-style games for free.
That's a lot of games. All for free?
Step 4. Unleash your excitement.
Woohoo!
Chumba Casino has been delivering thrills for over a decade. So claim your free welcome bonus now and live the Chumba life. Visit ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 21 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
When you manage procurement for multiple facilities, every order matters. But when it's for a hospital system, they matter even more. Grainger gets it and knows there's no time for managing multiple suppliers and no room for shipping delays. That's why Grainger offers millions of products in fast, dependable delivery, so you can keep your facility stocked, safe, and running smoothly. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.